YouTube. I had debated about making this video or not because it's a sad video. But you guys know him. Some of you may have taken him on as a friend as well. I just found out yesterday that my best friend from childhood died of coronavirus. I didn't even know he was sick. That's how fast it happens. You know, we're friends on Facebook. It's my friend Stuart. You guys know him as real name Ace. We did a couple collaborations together on here. You know, he was just posting like normal on Facebook and everything just a couple weeks ago, and then silence. And then I hear from my ex-wife that he died yesterday afternoon. So it's been very sudden. And I normally don't share too much of my sadness with this channel. But I thought I would share just because it might save some people. I keep trying to emphasize, you know, that coronavirus is not a joke. You know, I know a lot of my viewers are anti-vaxxers and whatnot. I myself am an anti-vaxxer, in case you haven't figured it out. But I went ahead and got the vaccination because of this being what it is. You know, it's not a normal situation. And people are dropping left and right, including young people like Stuart. I mean, somebody might say he's older, but he's like 51. And he was healthy, ate healthy, tried to live a healthy life. But I suspect, you know, I don't know for sure, but I suspect he didn't get vaccinated just because, you know, he believes, just like I do, that, you know, the body can heal itself, and food and whatnot can affect you, and medication, for the most part, you know, weakens your own body's response. But I took the vaccination because I was planning on traveling, and did it just because, you know, it's just a safety factor with the situation. But I was just so shocked. I guess I'm still in shock. I've been crying all night. Stuart and I go back all the way to like high school. Yeah, he was my best buddy. We shared everything, you know. The thumbnail you see is from my wedding with my first wife. He was my best man, you know, at my wedding. He served as Genie. My children knew him as Uncle Genie. And I served on his wedding as his best man. And he was one of the first people who came in to help me after my really, really messy divorce. I know those of you who followed through the whole story, you know how sad the whole process was. Stuart came in and helped me to live. I wanted to die, you know, when everything transpired, because I couldn't believe what had happened. All based on lies. Stuart stepped in and spent a lot of time with me during those dark moments, showing me new things, getting me back into photography, trying to show me that life is still worth living. Now he's gone. I decided to make this video just to talk a little bit about him and maybe raise some money for his daughter. You know, he adopted his daughter, who's now without a dad. Well, she's got a dad, you know, her other dad with the mother. It's a complicated story, which I won't get into. It's a bit personal. But Stuart was a great guy all around and went out of his way to help people. He baptized me again. You know, he was a youth pastor at one time, and he baptized me when I got out of the jail, and just basically spent a lot of time being a friend, you know. He served as the guardian for the visitation, you know, for the court. It was complicated. I wasn't allowed to see my children without visitation. Stuart served as the court-appointed, you know, supervisor of visitation, so I could see my children, and he shot some of the first pictures of me and my kids and videos, because we didn't know what was going to happen to me. You know, I didn't even know if I was going to be around. I really didn't want to live at the time. But he was there, you know, to help me through it. I'm sorry that I wasn't there for him in his final moments. I didn't even know. I had been stepping back from social media, you know, YouTube. I know some people are writing me and stuff, and I haven't been responding. It's just because I've been trying to disappear, go back into oblivion, you know. I did the, I wasn't even sure I was going to run the series on the house reno, because it puts me back into social media, but I thought some people might benefit from it. But, you know, otherwise I was hoping or planning on just disappearing, you know, not dying or anything like that in any rush to die, but I just wanted my privacy, you know, to protect my family. I'm going to, I made this video because I'm going to use it, you know, the earnings that I make from this video. Any people that want to donate to Stuart's daughter. There was a friend of his, I guess, you know, that's how she was the one who, her and her husband, I guess, were there for him in his final days. And announced his death yesterday, ironically, at 5:55 p.m., which, if you know Thai 5, you know, so it's 555, which in Thailand is ha ha ha. So I guess even dying, he got the last laugh. You know, if you could pick a time to die, 555 would be the time to die. I look at it and I'm like, you know, this is sad, but at the same time, he died at 5:55, which is laughing 3 times in Thailand. I knew him, you know, when we first met. We were both military brats, and our parents were stationed at Patrick Air Force Base, and a place called South Housing, which has been torn down now, but he lived like 2 houses down the street from me. And I remember, you know, his mother was like British. She spoke with a really strong British accent. And she somehow met my mother, who barely speaks any English, you know, just knows B-I-N-G-O, bingo. And somehow they started talking, which to me was amazing because my mom didn't know much English at all. But what they did know was they had 2 sons who were like really big computer nerds. So, you know, I was sitting there, I was like in high school at the time, my senior year, and I was attending satellite high school. And I was in my bedroom programming the computer. I was like writing, I don't know if I was writing a game or if I was working on the program, one of my first published articles for Ahoy magazine. It was a Commodore 128 painting program that I wrote, the artist. But Stuart came in. Well, what happened was I hear a knock on my bedroom door, and I open, and there's this weird guy just standing there. And I'm like, who the hell are you? And Stuart says, hi, my name is Stuart, and my mom and your mom sent me over. They said you were into computers. I was like, who the hell are you? So I was like, oh, you're into computers? Hey, yeah, I got computers here. You want to play a game? And that's how the friendship started. So, we played games. He had an Atari 800. It was an 800 XL. I had a Commodore 128. And so we played a lot of games, played a lot of Archon. I used to beat the pants off him playing Archon. I would be so good at it that I would like play the unicorn was like my favorite character. For those of you who don't know Archon, it's kind of like a chess game similar to what you saw in Star Wars, but it was on computers, and you had to win the board, which was like a chess board almost, a checkers board, and you had a side called the light and the dark, and the light side had a character that was a unicorn, and I always played the unicorn because it shot its unicorn horn really fast. And I would end up wiping out his entire board almost and leaving with a couple. Then we would trade sides. And, his side has a thing called a shapeshifter. And I would become the shapeshifter and use it to wipe out all his characters. So that was what most of the time was me basically beating Stuart on almost everything until one incident later that I'll tell you here. Because I'm just trying to reminisce about him. For those of you tuning in, I'm talking about my friend Stuart, who just passed away yesterday afternoon from coronavirus. He fought the battle and ended up losing. I suspect he wasn't vaccinated, even though he did take precautions like wearing a mask and whatnot. But I wanted to try to remember the good things and share with you the happy moments, because otherwise it's just pure sadness. But anyhow, Stuart and I used to play games and stuff, and then he was there right before I went in the military. He even, I used to have a crush on this girl who lived across the street, this blonde-haired girl, kind of like the Charlie Brown story. But the thing was, she was like younger than me, and at the time, she was only like 3 years younger than me. But when you're like 18, 19 years old, someone 3 years younger is like illegal. So, I didn't really have a relationship with her, but I kind of had a crush on her. She was like the neighbor girl across the street. And I remember I was so shy, as a kid, I was so shy around women, around girls. I told Stuart about it. You tell this kind of stuff with your best friend. They know everything about you. They know your first kiss, your first whatever. Stuart was my guy, my wingman. But he ended up passing a note to her and, let her know. And she ended up writing me for a while and stuff, but that was just young love, if you want to call it that. It never really became more than just a friendship. But then I went in the military, got out. He used to visit me in Orlando with his wife Krista, and we had some interesting stories there. I don't know if you guys heard my story about the roach. Stuart would come visit me while I was still in college, learning to be a teacher. I was taking classes and stuff. He would come visit me in Orlando, him and his wife. And what had happened was, one time he came over, I told him this story about the roach. There was those of you who are familiar with Florida, we have these things called palmetto bugs. They're big, giant ass cockroaches. They're like 2 inches big. They're like this big, okay? And this was a peeping roach. It wasn't like a regular roach. The cockroach would basically first just made appearance like this. I was laying in bed, and I felt something crawling on my chest. This was in an apartment. Well, it was like a house that I was renting. So I was sleeping, and I felt this thing crawl on my chest. I was like, what the f-? And I woke up, of course, flipped on the light, and I couldn't find anything, and I ripped apart the whole bed. I was like, there's something here. I don't know what the heck is here, but it's crawling on me at night. So then I was like, maybe it went away, thinking to myself, maybe I just imagined it. Sometimes you dream and you think something's real, but it's not real. So then I went to bed the next night, and sure enough, the damn roach did it again. And this time, I saw it was a roach. When I turned the light on, I tried to kill it. He ran under the bed. I looked for bug spray, and I didn't have anything. So I grabbed the closest thing I had, which was air freshener. It was like potpourri air freshener. So I sprayed it on the roach, and he ran away and didn't die, but he smelled really nice. And I was like, what the? And then he ran into the bathroom, and I looked at the time, and I was like, it is like 1 a.m. And this roach apparently is doing this every night. He's come up with a routine where he jumps on my chest at night, and then he runs into the bathroom. Okay? And then, I don't know what he does in the bathroom, because I ran into the bathroom after and I couldn't find him. Until, okay? I got up one night after the roach incident, and I went into the bathroom and I couldn't find him, and I went on the toilet. And I was sitting there, and then I happened to look up at the shower, and this roach has his head peeping out looking at me. He's watching me take a dump. I'm like, this roach is nasty. And of course I freaked out. Yeah, I hadn't gone to the bathroom yet. So I jumped up on the toilet seat to try to get that roach, and slipped. And you know how the toilet seat kind of falls apart when you stand on it? And fell in the toilet bowl. And I was so pissed, I drove off to Walmart and bought bug spray, okay? And then the roach disappeared. I could never find him again. I waited. I stayed up till 1 a.m. waiting for him, and he never showed up. And then about 1 or 2 days later, Stuart shows up with his then girlfriend, his then wife, Krista. And we sit and talk like old friends do. And it is 1 a.m. and we were in my bedroom because I had a shared, it's one of those apartments that have 2 rooms. So the other side had my friend Yuji, who was a Japanese student that was my roommate. And we call him roommate, but he had his own room. But I was in my room with Stuart, and I was sitting there telling him the story about just the last couple nights, why I looked so tired. I hadn't slept because this perverted roach was attacking me every night and then spying on me in the bathroom. So we're sitting there talking in my bedroom, and sure enough, it's 1 a.m. And guess who happens to come out while we're there with the lights on, sitting there in my room? Yeah, the roach. He comes out while I'm telling the story about the roach. And he walks right between me and Stuart and Krista. Stuart immediately grabbed my flip-flop and smack! That was the end of the roach. It had kept me up like more than 2 weeks. I even set the alarm to wake up to try to catch him because I knew he was following a pattern. He was doing this shit every day, the roach. But what nerve! He actually tried to go through, and Stuart ended that terror for me. That's just some of the stories, and there were other stories. I don't know if I shared with you about the poop incident. You remember I told you we were computer nerds, and this time after I got out of the Air Force, Stuart would come over, and I had my own room at the back of my parents' house, and we would sit there and play computer games. And I had a dog named Lucky who turned out wasn't very lucky. Stuart would come and play with me, we'd play computer games in my room. And I had a dog named Lucky who was like a mixed dog, and she was like really smart and everything and really nice. And my mother, who, if you guys know a little bit, my mother, she had like a crazy sense of humor. Well, I was sitting there with Stuart, and my mom happens to come in, And she says, oh my goodness, what is this? And she picked up this big poo on the floor of my room. And I'm like, I know it wasn't me, I know it wasn't Stuart, and I looked at the dog, and I'm like, what the? And I started screaming at Lucky. I'm like, Lucky, what the hell are you? You know better than that. And my dog's looking at me like, ah. You know how dogs get that scared look and their eyes go wide and they look like they're almost clenching their teeth? And then I scream at my dog for like 5, 6, 7 minutes straight. And I'm like, you bad dog! You shit in my room! And I'm going off on the dog. And then my mom bursts out laughing because she picks up the poo with her bare hands. And it turns out it was like one of those fake poo. And Stuart and I look at each other and we just like laugh, you know. He's the type of friend where if you've ever had a friend where you can't explain it, but the chemistry's there, so whenever you are together, you don't even say anything, and even just looking at each other, you start laughing, and then you can't stop laughing. And it could go on for hours. Like, you're just sitting there laughing, and you're like, what are we laughing about? I don't know. Can't stop. But that's how it was with Stuart. And, you know, that's what life was like with him as my friend. And there's a lot more stories. You know, I don't want to bore you all with my stories, but I share this story because, you know, I'm urging you to take any precautions. I know some people are anti-vaccine. I myself am anti-vaccine, but this is, and I think it's a personal choice, and some people will still not get vaccinated. I was talking about it with my boss just last week, as a matter of fact, my boss at the space agency, and we were talking about, you know, because he says he's also like that. He normally doesn't take medication either. You know, a lot of people like me don't like modern medicine. Like, I try not to take anything unless I'm pretty much dying, you know. So we were talking about it and saying how we normally don't take medicines, but when you look at the potential outcome, you know, they say with the vaccine, I know some people died from taking the vaccine, but the vaccine they took was like the AstraZeneca one or whatever, which they had in Thailand and other places, which apparently has a high rate of blood clots in women. It causes like blood clots in the brain. So it's not used in the United States, but the AstraZeneca one or whatever, it has those issues. And there may be people who have issues with Pfizer and even Moderna. But I shared with you my own experiences with it. And it was, you know, I just had the little red bumps, tiny little red bumps. But I'm pointing it out because Stuart was healthy. He ate healthy. And now he's gone. And it happened very fast. It's not like a drawn-out disease or whatever where you're sick and people know about it, and it can happen and your friend is gone. Just like that. So I share with you this. Those of you who are on Facebook, you know, there's a girl, I guess a new friend, Kristen, who has a link for his GoFundMe that was supposed to be for his hospital bills, but I think they're going to use it for the funeral. I'm going to try to raise money on this end with this video and donate some money to his daughter. I don't know what's going to happen with her. She was being homeschooled by him, you know, so I'm so sad for her. She's young. And they were very, very close. So a lot of sadness for his family, for his friends. He did a lot of really nice things for people. And, you know, if you guys remember the channel, we had, if you look for a channel named Ace Channel, that was Stuart. I did a couple collaborations with him where we went out to the compound. He was showing off keto diet, you know, some stuff you could make your own homemade keto MREs, whatever. And I will try not to cry anymore for Stuart, because I know he wouldn't want me crying all the time, you know. So I share with you my sadness and some of the happy, funny stories. Oh, I do have one final story before I close out. I told you most of my life with Stuart, I beat him on stuff. I usually beat him on almost everything we did, whether it be playing video games or shooting pool. But there was one time where he actually beat me, but it took a long time. A lot of you know that Thai people, we eat like really, really spicy food, like hot food. And Thai people are notoriously known for eating hot food. And we used to eat hot peppers with everything. And my mother would cook Thai food, Thai dishes. And she would put, what do they call bell peppers, the green ones? Those aren't spicy at all. They're kind of sweet. Have a slightly sweet taste, the green peppers, the bell peppers. But she would cut those into little strips and put them into the dish. But she would also cut up Thai chili peppers, green ones, into little strips and throw them in there. And, Stuart's like a white boy, who at the time he was his mother was British, his father was American. And they ate, American food, but also British food. And I think a lot of British food is kind of, as far as I know, kind of blah. It's like not super spicy. So that's what his palate was like growing up. But my mother made the Thai dish, which, he likes to try everything. He would eat everything. He was one of those people who ate anything. So she made the Thai dish and gave him the food with me too. It was actually, I don't know if it was Radna. It might have been Radna, which is a noodle over face. It's these big noodles with this gravy on it, sweet gravy, and you can put whatever vegetables and stuff you want in it. So he started to bite and go, this is delicious. So he took a really big bite and took some of what he thought was bell pepper, okay, and ate it. And then suddenly his whole face goes red. It was almost like a cartoon. You know how you see the cartoon characters, their face goes red and smoke starts coming out of their ear? That's what it looked like, except it was real. It was Stuart making that face. And I was like, dude, are you okay? He's like, hot. And he was like dying. He was drinking all the water and just dying, and he couldn't even finish the noodles. And, my mom was sitting there. I told you my mom was the one with the poopy, the dog poopy, and made me yell at the dog for like 5 minutes before picking up the poop and showing me it was fake. She sat there laughing at Stuart. So my mom was a little bit sadistic, I guess, to an extent. But she sat there laughing at Stuart, and of course I was laughing at him too, because, when I was eating it, I was like, I knew it was hot pepper. But I ate it, and I was like, oh, this is like really good, because that was normal for me. So fast forward, okay, I get out of the Air Force, and Stuart meets me and decides to take me at this then really, really hot, good, fancy, not fancy, but really nice Chinese buffet. And he takes me to the Chinese buffet, and we go to get the food. And I like hot, so I saw that they had, if you go to those buffets, they have the fresh green, how they do what do they call those things? Like the Japanese grill where they cook the food for you. So you get the noodles and you get all the vegetables and the meats and stuff, and they cook it up fresh. Well, I didn't have that dish, but they had cut peppers there. These green, I think they were, I don't know what kind of peppers they were. I'm trying to remember. But they were the kind that Spanish people like. Maybe jalapenos. I think they might have been jalapeno peppers. But they were small and about like, probably about an inch or less. And they're fat kind of looking, chunky looking. I guess jalapenos. But they're really, not that hot now that I'm used to them. But what happened was I got those because they had sliced them for the thing. And I started eating them. And, for me, when it's hot, I start sweating, like profusely. So I'm sweating and going, and my nose is running, because that's what happens when you eat hot foods. And that's how you can tell a Thai person is really, really, really enjoying their meal. So I started dying. I was like, this stuff is hot, Stuart. And then Stuart looks at me and says, let me try it. So he grabs a whole bunch of them and stuffs them in his mouth without even any other food to subdue the taste. Okay? So he takes all that and eats it and chews it like there's nothing wrong with it. And it's not even hot at all. He says, I can barely taste these. They're not hot at all. Now remember, Stuart's the guy that was dying when my mother served him the Thai chili peppers, which didn't even faze me. But then these other peppers, I was like dying. I was like, he must have grabbed, these must be defective. Maybe the one I got was like hotter. So the ones I'm giving Stuart are defective. So I grab a bunch just like Stuart, okay? Because he ate them raw and seemed to be fine with it. So I grabbed a whole bunch just like he did, and I was like, yeah, they must have gave me a defective one that was like super hot or something, and the ones that Stuart has, there's nothing wrong with them. So I stuffed it in my mouth and started chewing. And then my face turned red, and I felt like smoke was blowing out in my ear, and Stuart is sitting there cracking up, laughing. He's like dying laughing, and I'm like, what the hell? How did you? And I'm like stuffing sugar. I'm taking packets of, you know how they have packets of sugar and stuff for the tea? I'm opening up like packets of sugar and stuffing it down my face to try to get rid of the burning sensation. Like, how the hell did it not kill you? And he's like, I've been working up my tolerance. So during the time I was in the Air Force, Stuart had been eating hotter and hotter and hotter peppers. He was one of those people who took like the ghost pepper challenges and stuff, you know, and would eat them at this one place, this one restaurant where people almost died. You know, they had to sign a waiver that if you die, your family can't sue the company for selling this food that has ghost peppers or whatever. You're eating all these peppers that are like 1 million Scoville units, whatever, I don't know. But yeah, that was the one time in my life I recall where Stuart actually beat me. And had the last laugh with me going, smoke coming out of my ear. But anyhow, you see, I'm feeling a lot better talking about the happy moments. So maybe that's the best way to remember our loved ones, is to share with our friends, you know, the good moments, and what made them your friend. And you know, I will forever carry Stuart in my heart. You know, he was a very unique guy, and really a good friend, you know. So I do feel for all of you who have lost somebody, whether it be to coronavirus or anything else. This whole situation with the world is like unbelievable. You know, it's hard to believe that we're even in a real world. Everything is just so different and also so sad sometimes, and so dangerous. You know, just going to the movies, whatever, can be dangerous. I don't say to stop doing that or to lock yourself up, and just, you know, don't be petrified of living. I do say try to take whatever precautions you can. I know a lot of you may be hesitant about the vaccine and think that it doesn't really work, and they've given over like literally I think hundreds of millions of shots, and some people do die from them. So that's a given. Some people suffer long-term disabilities from them. That's a given. But the percentage, the chance of getting sick and dying from the vaccine is way lower than dying if you catch the virus. My son, I didn't share with you, that was my own personal struggle. My young son had tested positive for coronavirus a few months back, because of Florida. You know, I can't even talk about Florida because I'll just go off and go crazy. You know, the governor is trying to get rid of the mandate for wearing masks at school. Okay, and when they opened school up, you know, already even before school opened, in Brevard County itself, 40 teachers had tested positive and several had died. And then they opened the school up with, you know, not mandatory vaccination at the time. They didn't have it for kids. But they opened up the schools and there was no mask mandate. And the governor had been threatening, and still is, that if any schools force a mask mandate, that he would take funding away from the school, no money at all. So that's what's going on in Florida, which is like a hot spot right now. People are dying left and right. My wife, for those of you who know, works in the healthcare business, and she sees new people coming in, and they are young people, not the older folks. Most of the older folks have been vaccinated at this point or dead. The people coming in are people as young as teenagers. Mostly people in their 30s, 40s, sometimes in their late 20s. And they come in, and by the time you're in the hospital, it's like really, really late. Yeah, I would tell you from what I read on, his friend's site on what happened to him in his final days. He was underinsured, which is a lot of what's happening with Americans. A lot of people here don't have insurance, which is a sad thing for one of the most developed countries in the world, that we don't have adequate health care. That's a whole nother issue. So he was self-employed and underinsured, and I don't know if that played any part in it, but also the hospitals are overwhelmed. The ventilators, all these machines, all these things they're kind of like maxed out in Florida. So sometimes you go in and there's no room. You just can't get service. I don't know if what happened with him exactly. I know he from what I read, he had gotten ill and stayed home for 10 days trying to fight it himself, and was taking vitamins and all sorts of other stuff that seemed like they were helping him. And then he got really bad, and I think he went in. I don't know if they didn't have a hospital or whatever, but he went to hospice, and I don't know if they were trying to help him. They gave him oxygen. They said his lungs were all filled up, and when the virus attacks the lungs, that's where it kind of lives, and made it so it wouldn't hold any oxygen. So he was like not able to breathe. They didn't intubate him or anything, at hospice. They just put him on oxygen, and then I guess a short time later, he died. So I put this video out, even though it's probably one of my saddest videos that I've aired, to try to hopefully get some people to think twice and take the necessary precautions, to protect yourself and your loved ones. I know a lot of people say masking doesn't work. Well, I put it on whether or not it works, just because it's a precaution. I work at a space facility, and they take it very seriously there. The federal government has now mandated that all government employees and contractors and stuff have to be vaccinated. They're basically forcing people to take the vaccine if they want to keep their job. If you don't want to get vaccinated and you don't have an exemption, like the vaccine has been known to possibly kill you because of a pre-existing condition, whatever, then you're fired. I think it's sad that it had to come down to that, but until everybody's on the same boat and taking all the precautions, I don't know if you know, the virus itself doesn't live very long. It requires hosts. It requires people to carry it. The virus itself only lives about 2-3 weeks. So if it doesn't have an adequate host, like a new host to jump to, it dies. The reason it's still going on is people keep spreading it to a new person. And I know some people, like my son, apparently was able to fight it, thankfully. And he seems to be okay. But there are people who aren't okay, and Stuart was one of them. So take whatever precautions you can. Know that this isn't like a regular illness where you get ill and people actually know about it. It's something that 1 week you're fine, and 2 weeks later your friends are like, where is he? That's how fast it happens. You don't really have time in it. It's like some people, and I imagine Stuart's like that, like me. They get sick and they go, I'll fight it out, and then you're sitting there trying to take care of yourself at your house, which they recommend because they can't take you in the hospital right now. It's overbooked. But you get so ill that by the time you get to the hospital, they have to ventilate you, whatever. It's already, your chance of survival has dropped tremendously. So take the precautions that you do. At the same time, try not to live in fear. It seems like contradictory. That's why you sometimes see me still going out to eat with my kids at the buffet and whatnot. At the restaurant, it has people. I still do that, knowing that there's a risk. Some people say, well, there's a risk of dying from this. You think that eating a meal is with it. It's not so much eating the meal, it's living. I don't want to live in a bubble, but at the same time, I try to take whatever precautions I can. I don't put myself in big crowds all the time. I do sometimes, but I try to. Now that I'm vaccinated, there's an extra layer of protection. So I do the best that I can, but I also try to live, because if you are just spending your life scared of dying from coronavirus or anything else, well, what's the point of living? You have to live. And so my recommendation is take the precautions. Try to get vaccinated if you can. Vaccines work. Wear the mask if you can. Just no need to put yourself and your loved ones and your friends and family and whatnot through extreme sadness that could have been prevented. I know for a fact Stuart would wear masks and stuff. I've seen pictures of him on Facebook with his daughter wearing masks and stuff. But I suspect he didn't get vaccinated just because he's, into health foods and self-healing and all this other stuff, which I am too, but I went ahead and got vaccinated. And for those of you who have lost a loved one, I feel for you. Take care, everybody.